right, we are on the 11.1 worksheet number 2. Starting off by simplifying two polynomials being added together. And when they're being added, all we have to do is combine like terms. When they're being subtracted, we're going to distribute first. All right, so number 1. Ideally, you want to start with the higher power just so that you don't have to rearrange at the end. So out of all of these powers, the largest one I see is to the third power. So I'm going to combine those first and put it at the beginning of my new simplified polynomial. So put those together, that's negative 15m to the third. Next, I see squareds, positive 3 plus 2, so 5m squared. And then last is just the m to the first, so negative 6 and negative 7 is negative 13m. Now, when there's subtraction, what we need to do first is distribute it like a negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3n squared. Negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. Negative 1 times 7 is negative 7n. Bring this down. And now we just combine like terms. Highest power I see is to the third power. And there's only one of them, so it'll stay in my final answer. Then I have a couple squareds here. Put those together. That's 11n squared. This is the only n I have, so it stays. And I have a negative 7 and a positive 6. That comes out to negative 1 for my whole number there at the end. Number 3, it's adding, so just combine like terms. I'm going to start with my fourth powers. It's negative 9n to the fourth. This is my only power of 3, so it stays. This was my only power of 2, so it stays. Negative 4n and 1 is going to give me a negative 3n. Okay, number 4. Distribute first. This becomes positive 3k, positive 2k to the fourth, negative 5k to the second. So whenever I distribute this negative, it's just going to change the signs. So positive becomes negative and negative becomes positive. All right, I'm going to skip the little part of bringing this down and try and combine here carefully with what's up here and here, just to save some writing. So the highest power I see is to the fourth power. Negative 6, positive 2 gives me negative 4k to the fourth. That was here and here. No third powers. I have a negative 5k to the second, positive 3k to the second. That's negative 2k to the second. And then with my regular k's, I have a 3k and a negative 1, so that's a positive 2k. And then I have a plus 2, and that's the only whole number here, so tags along the end. Number 5. Distribute. Positive 6p squared, positive 3p to the fourth, negative 7. So for this one, I'll bring it down. You can do like I did on the last one, but I want to make sure nobody's confused. So this all comes down, nothing's changed. These signs all changed because we distributed the negative. So here's my fourth powers. Now they're negative 3 and positive 3. So that means they're going to cancel. They're gone. Then I have these second powers. Negative 5 and 6, that's positive 1, so it's just p squared. This is the only p, so it's going to stay. And I have a 3 and a negative 7, that's a negative 4. Number 6, adding, so just combine like terms. I see a fourth power and a fourth, that's a negative 5 and a 1, so that's negative 4. Third power, that's the only one, so it stays. Second powers, negative 6 and 1, that's negative 5. And then a 4v minus a 3v is a positive 1v. Okay, number 7. Combining like terms because it's adding. So I've got negative 8 and a 1. So negative 7k to the fourth. Looking at my third powers, it's 6 minus 8. So negative 2k to the third. This is the only second that I have, so it just tags along. This is the only k to the first, so minus 8k. And then negative 1 and 4 is positive 3, so plus 3. All right, last one. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down. And then distribute. So this is plus, this is minus. Everything just changes. This is minus, and this is plus. All right, so my fourths, I have a 3 and a 1. So 4x to the fourth. No thirds. To the second, it's a 6 and a minus 5, so it's a positive 1 left over. X squared. A 6x and a minus 7x, that's negative 1x, so negative x minus x. And then 7 and 8 is positive 15. All right, down to the bottom section. So on these, we have to fill in the missing piece that was added together with this to create this. So we went, well, let's start with the fourth powers here, just to keep this in the right order. So I went from a b to the fourth to a negative 3. So I went down. So I already know it's going to be a negative something. I went from 1 to negative 3. That's down 4. So negative 4b to the fourth. That's what was added. If I did 1 plus negative 4, I get negative 3. All right. Then the third power, I went from a negative 4 to a negative 7. So again, I went down, so minus 3. B to the third, because negative 4 plus negative 3 would be negative 7. I don't see any squareds. So for just my b now, I went from a 2b to a 1b. So I went down 1, so minus b. And I went from 3 to negative 1. So I went down 4, minus 4. You can always double check, add all these to these, and just make sure you get this. Then you know you did it correct. All right, over here, starting with the fourth, I went from this and I ended up with that. Started with 8r to the fourth, ended with 8r to the fourth. So that means there is no term in this one that's being added or subtracted. So I don't need to list anything to the fourth. To the third, I went from an 8r to the third to a 1. So I went down 7. So negative 7r to the third. I have a squared, and it disappeared completely. So if it's gone, that means I minus the whole thing away. So this was a minus 4r squared. Canceling this out, leaving no squared in my final. From negative 7 to negative 14, I went down 7. And I didn't have a whole number, and now I do. So that's kind of like a 0. I must have added 8 to get a plus 8 here. All right, to the back. So back here, I'm going to simplify the left side, and then I'm going to solve the equation however I can. Okay, so for the first one, I do need to do the minus here first. So negative 4x squared minus 3x. This becomes a plus 5. All right, combining like terms now. I have, for my x squared, it's a 5 minus 4, leaving me a 1x squared. Negative 3x and negative 3x is negative 6x. Negative 12 and 5 is positive 7. All right, so I've got a quadratic formula here, so I need my a, b, c, which is 1, negative 6, and 7. We're going to run this through now. So we're plugging in to our quadratic formula. Oops, there's no squared on that. All right, so I plug a negative 6 in for b, so it's going to say negative negative 6, which becomes positive 6. Negative 6 squared, 6 times 6 is 36. Negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36. Negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 1 would be 2. All right, so up top here, 36 minus 4 times 1 times 7 can give me an 8. Square root of 8, that's going to give me a decimal. So something here is incorrect. So my mistake was right here. Negative 12 and 5. The 7 part's right, but it's negative 7. So this should be a minus, which makes this a negative 7, which makes this a negative 7, which will change what we've got there. So little mistake there. Easy fix. 4 times 1 times negative 7. It's going to give you 64 under here. So I'm going to bring it over here. 6 plus or minus square root of 64 over 2. Square root of 64 is 8, so it's 6 plus or minus 8 over 2. So split it into two pieces. 6 plus 8 over 2, that's 14 over 2, which is 7. And then 6 minus 8 over 2, so negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. So my answers here are 7 and negative 1. Okay, number 12, let's simplify first. My x and my negative 2x, this is plus, so I don't have to do anything fancy here. They're going to cancel out, leaving me just a 3x squared and a negative 48, because this and this cancel. So because this only has these two terms and it doesn't have this middle one, quadratic formula work, okay, but there's really no need for it here. It's faster if we just go ahead and solve it. So I'm going to go ahead and add 48 to both sides. 3x squared equals 48, divide by 3. And it's 16 and square root. Remember, there's always a positive and a negative, so it's 4 or negative 4. And I'm done. So save yourself some time on those types. All right, I can isolate the x squared and then square root it. Now over here, I can't isolate the x squared because I'm going to end up with an x on the other side, and then I can't solve it. So if I'm missing an x squared or missing just the x like I was here, you can solve it like a normal equation. You don't have to use the quadratic formula. All right, down here, we are going to distribute. So negative 3x squared makes this a positive 6x, makes this a negative 20. All right, combining, that should be 3x squared. That should be positive 9x and negative 120. We'll see if I did this one right. So I do have an x squared and an x, so we're going to the quadratic formula. Oops, such a habit over here, going too fast. A is 3, B is 9, C is negative 120. Okay, so negative b is negative 9. B squared, that's 81. 4 times 3 times negative 120. 2 times a, 2 times 3, that's 6 on the bottom. So 81 minus 4 times 3 times negative 120 is 1521. I have a feeling that has a nice square root. Yep, 39. So it's negative 9 plus or minus 39 over 6. Negative 9 plus 39 over 6. Negative 9 minus 39 over 6. So I get 5. And I get negative 8. Now you got to be careful on these when you plug them in your calculator. If you plug all of this in at once and not as a fraction, if you do negative 9 plus 39 and then just hit divided by 6, your calculator is going to follow order of operations and actually divide 39 by 6 first and then add the negative 9. And so you'd be getting a different answer. So if you're wondering how come your answers aren't coming out right, that could be part of it. Okay, you want to make sure that you do the first part first. So if you notice, I did negative 9 plus 39, which is 30, and then I divided by 6 to get 5. If you were going to put it all in your calculator too, you could put it in parentheses, negative 9 plus 39 divided by 6, because now it knows to do the parentheses first and then divide. But watch, that gives you the 5. But if I just type in negative 9 plus 39 divided by 6, it gives me a different answer because it's going to do the division first because that's what order of operations says. But whenever we have a fraction like this, you actually complete the whole top before you divide. So you got to tell the calculator what to do. All right, 14, last one. A little tricky part thrown in here. We're going to distribute an actual number now. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6b, and 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Bring all this down. All right, combine like terms now. This is the only b squared. Negative 1, negative 6 is negative 7. 15 minus 3 is positive 12. Quadratic, we have 1, negative 7, and 12. So negative b, I plug a negative in. So it's negative negative 7 becomes positive 7. Negative 7 squared is positive 49. 2 times 1 is 2. So 49 minus 4 times 1 times 12 is 1. So it's going to be 7 plus or minus square root of 1 over 2. Square root of 1 is 1. All right, split into 2. 7 plus 1 divided by 2, that's 8 divided by 2, so 4. 7 minus 1 divided by 2, that's 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So my answers are B equals 4 and 3.